Alright, so today we're going to talk about special segments like we have been. Remember, there's 4 of them: median, altitude, perpendicular bisector, and angle bisector. But we're going to introduce some algebra. We're not actually going to do all 4. We're just going to deal with perpendicular bisector and angle bisector today. So the way this is going to work, I'm actually just going to do some examples with you. I'm going to do 2 with you, and then you're going to do 1 on your own in the Ed Puzzle. Make sure you enter your answer, and that's how I'm going to see what you've done, what you need help with, stuff along those lines. So here's example 1, and I'm telling you this is the perpendicular bisector. Make sure you pause this video so you can actually draw the picture and have that in your notes as well. So remember, with the perpendicular bisector, we actually have this right angle that's created with that line. And then remember, once that perpendicular bisector comes down, that term bisector tells you it cuts something in half. And here in this case, it cuts that side in half. So I now have 2 equal parts. I know 17x minus 3, this part of the side, is going to be equal to 9x plus 13. So I just told you they're 2 equal parts. So in order to solve them, to solve for x, you're just going to set them equal to each other. When I set them equal to each other, I start off with 17x minus 3 is equal to 9x plus 13. Remember, my goal is to get x by itself. So I'm going to subtract 9x from both sides first. When I do that on the right, it cancels out. 17 minus 9 leaves me with 8x. I didn't do anything with the minus 3 yet, so I'm going to bring it down. And it's going to be equal to 13. I need to get that 8x by itself, so I'm going to add 3 to both sides. It cancels out on the left, and I'm left with 8x is equal to 16. And my last step to solve for x is to divide both sides by 8. It cancels out on the left, and I'm left with x equals 16 divided by 8 is 2. So here it's just a case of you need to make sure that if you're given one of the specific segments, you know the basics about it. So here you had to know that since it's perpendicular bisector, that side was cut in half, and we had to actually set those 2 parts equal to each other. So here we have example 2. Again, I'm telling you that it is a perpendicular bisector. So remember, go ahead and pause the video and make sure that you have this drawing down with the correct markings. So this is the same scenario as the other one. We have this perpendicular bisector right here that comes down at that right angle. I know it bisects that side that it crosses or interacts with. So I know that these 2 sections are equal to each other. Since they are equal to each other, I'm going to set them equal to solve. So I have 2x plus 11 is equal to 14x minus 37. My first step to solve, I always move the smaller x, so I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. It cancels out on the left, and I'm only left with 11 is equal to 14x minus 2x gives me 12x minus 37. I need to get that 12x by itself, so I'm going to add 37 to both sides. When I do that, it cancels out on the right. 11 plus 37 leaves me with 48, and it's equal to 12x. My last step here to solve for x is to divide both sides by 12, and I'm left with x equals 4. So here is the example 3 that you're going to do on your own. There is going to be a question that pops up and asks for your answer. It's going to ask you what the value was for x, so you're only going to type in the number you got. Alright, so example 4, we are moving into our next special segment. If you can see here, we're dealing with the angles. And so I'm telling you this is an angle bisector. Now, nothing really changes. What happened here was we had this large angle, which was YWX. This line segment came and cut it in half into 2 smaller angles. So I know that this angle right here is also equal to this smaller angle. So both small angles are equal. Just like in the perpendicular bisector, all we're going to do is set them equal. So 3x plus 3 is going to be equal to 8x minus 32. I'm going to solve for x. I'm going to move the smaller one, so I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. When I do that, it cancels out on the left, and I'm left with just 3 is equal to 5x minus 32. I'm going to add 32 to both sides. Cancels out on the right. 3 plus 32 gives me 35, which is equal to 5x. And my last step to get x by itself is to divide both sides by 5, so x equals 7. So example 5 is another angle bisector. On your test that you have next week, when it comes to algebra, I'm only going to give you perpendicular bisector and angle bisector. So all you need to remember for these algebra is to set them equal. So I'm going to take my first expression, 6x plus 13, set it equal to the second one, 16x minus 7. I'm going to subtract 6x from both sides. It cancels on the left. I'm left with 13 equals 16x minus 6x is 10x minus 7. I need to get that 10x by itself, so I'm going to add 7 to both sides. 13 plus 7 gives me 20, which is equal to 10x still. And my last step to solve for x is to divide both sides by 10, so x is equal to 2. So here is example 6. Go ahead and work it on your own. You're going to do what you need to do to solve for x. It's still an angle bisector. And then just like that other problem you did, there's going to be a question that pops up and it's going to ask for the value you got, so only type in the number.